You're standing in a field in Barbados, 1720. It's over 100 degrees. The air smells like burnt caramel and blood. Around you, men are feeding 12-foot cane stalks into a mill by hand. One wrong move and the machine doesn't care whose fingers are next to the sugar. There's an axe chained to the mill for exactly that reason, not to cut cane, to cut off arms. Because in the time it takes to yell for help, an arm caught in the rollers becomes a body caught in the rollers. This is where your sweet tooth comes from. Not the candy aisle, not the soda fountain. Here. In blood, in chains, in one of the most brutal industries humans have ever built, all to satisfy a craving that's older than humanity itself. So here's the mystery. Why would people enslave millions, fight naval wars, and reshape entire continents for something that tastes nice? What is sugar actually doing to us that it was worth all of that? Stick with me, because we're going to trace this from a monkey in a fruit tree, to a British warship, to the bag of gummy bears in your kitchen cabinet. Same craving. Wildly different stakes. Let's rewind way before sugarcane, before farming, before we were even fully human. Our ancestors were primates living in trees, and trees meant fruit. Ripe fruit meant sugar, and sugar meant calories, fast, easy-to-digest calories in a world where the next meal was never guaranteed. So evolution did what evolution does. It rewarded us big time. Every bite of something sweet triggered a flood of dopamine. The brain's do that again chemical. Not because sugar is inherently magical, because for millions of years, sweetness reliably meant safe, ripe, energy-dense food. The animals that loved sugar the most survived to pass on genes that loved sugar the most. Simple as that. The ones that didn't care about sweetness. They wasted time on unripe, toxic, or nutritionally useless plants. Evolution has no patience for indifference. Here's the twist, though. That reward system was built for a world of scarcity. A world where sweet things were rare, seasonal, and hard to get. Nobody was worried about too much sugar, because too much sugar didn't exist in nature. You'd have to eat berries until your jaw gave out. There was no such thing as an all-you-can-eat fruit buffet sitting on a supermarket shelf, lit up under fluorescent lights, whispering by me. And here's the part that should really bother you. Evolution never bothered building an off switch. Why would it? For millions of years, there was no scenario where a primate needed to stop eating sugar out of caution. The environment did the rationing for you. Fruit ran out. Seasons changed. Bees fought back. Scarcity was the off switch, built into the world, not into your brain. Which means the exact same brain that kept a starving ancestor alive is now sitting inside you, in a world of infinite supermarket aisles, still running 1.5 million-year-old software with zero updates. Fast forward to early humans, and sugar was still basically a treasure hunt. Honey was the jackpot, and getting it meant fighting actual bees for it. Cave paintings from over 8,000 years ago show people climbing cliffs, smoke in hand, robbing hives while getting absolutely destroyed by angry insects. That's how badly we wanted something sweet. We were willing to get stung for it, willing to scale a literal cliff face for it, willing to risk anaphylaxis before anyone even knew what that word meant. For most of human history, that's the ceiling. Fruit, honey, the occasional root vegetable. Sugar stayed rare, stayed a reward, stayed, in a weird way, honest. It cost you something to get it. Effort, risk, a few bee stings, and that cost kept the craving in balance. Then someone figured out how to grow it in a stalk, and everything changed. Sugarcane was first domesticated in New Guinea thousands of years ago, then slowly spread through Asia and the Middle East. For a long time it was still a luxury, something nobles nibbled on, something traded in small, expensive amounts, locked away like a spice. Medieval Europeans called it white gold, kings gifted it to each other, doctors prescribed it in tiny doses as medicine. It was medicine before it was a snack, a status symbol before it was a staple. But here's where it stops being cute. Sugarcane doesn't grow just anywhere. It needs tropical heat, huge amounts of water. And critically, it has to be processed almost immediately after harvest, or it rots in the field. That means you need land, you need labor, and you need it fast, all in the same place, all at once. There's no slow, seasonal version of sugar production. It's an industrial process, or it's nothing. Europeans found the land in the Caribbean and Brazil. And they found the labor through one of the most catastrophic human decisions in history, the transatlantic slave trade. Between the 1500s and 1800s, an estimated 12 million enslaved Africans were forcibly transported across the Atlantic, and a staggering portion of them ended up on sugar plantations. Not cotton, not tobacco, sugar. It was by a wide margin the deadliest crop in the slave economy, because processing raw cane involved boiling vats, spinning mills, and machinery that maimed and killed constantly. Life expectancy on some Caribbean sugar plantations was brutally short. Plantation owners often calculated it was cheaper to work enslaved people to death and buy replacements than to keep anyone alive long-term. That's not a side detail, that's the business model. Sugar wasn't a side effect of slavery. In huge parts of the Americas, sugar was the reason slavery scaled the way it did. And it didn't stop with sugar alone. Around the same centuries, 3 other addictive imports were flooding into Europe: tea, coffee, and chocolate. All 3 are, on their own, bitter, genuinely unpleasant to drink. And Europe solved that problem the same way. Every single time, dump sugar in it. Tea consumption and sugar consumption in Britain rose together, almost in lockstep, like 2 addictions holding hands. Coffee houses spread across European cities, and every cup sold was a tiny advertisement for the plantation economy sitting quietly underneath it. You weren't just developing a taste for coffee, you were developing a taste for the thing that made coffee bearable, and that thing had a body count, and nations went to actual war over it. Britain and France fought for decades over Caribbean sugar islands. Some of these islands were considered more valuable than entire colonies on the North American mainland. At one point, France seriously considered trading all of Canada just to keep one sugar island. Let that sink in. An empire almost gave up a continent for cane fields. Meanwhile, back home in Europe, sugar consumption was climbing so fast that a food once reserved for royalty was showing up in the tea of factory workers within a couple of generations. The luxury good had become the addiction of an entire continent, and the supply chain behind it never stopped being violent. So myth versus reality time. You've probably heard of a sugar rush? The idea that a candy bar turns kids into hyperactive chaos monsters? Here's the reality. Multiple controlled studies have found no consistent link between sugar intake and hyperactivity. The rush is mostly a myth. What you're actually feeling is a fast dopamine hit followed later by a glucose crash, not chaos. Chemistry, the kid isn't bouncing off the walls because of sugar, the kid is bouncing off the walls because it's a birthday party and there's cake. What's real, though, is the mechanism underneath it. Every time you eat sugar today, you're triggering the exact same ancient reward circuit that once told a hungry primate, "This fruit is safe, eat more." Except now, that circuit isn't guarding against scarcity. It's being aimed deliberately by an entire industry that knows precisely how to hit it. Modern food companies didn't invent your sweet tooth. They found it sitting there, evolved over millions of years, and built a trillion-dollar industry around triggering it as efficiently as possible. Hyper-processed snacks are engineered to hit what food scientists call the bliss point, the exact sugar concentration that maximizes craving without triggering the brain's natural "okay, that's enough" signal. Entire product testing labs exist for the sole purpose of finding that number. Your ancestors climbed cliffs for a taste of this feeling. You just have to walk to a vending machine, and someone has already done the climbing for you. Engineered, tested, and packaged specifically so you won't stop at one. And the receipts are showing up in real time. Global rates of type 2 diabetes have climbed dramatically over the past few decades, tracking almost perfectly alongside the rise of cheap, sugar-saturated processed food. That ancient reward circuit, the one that once kept a fruit-hungry primate alive, is now quietly reshaping global public health, one soda at a time. Your body isn't malfunctioning when it craves sugar. It's doing exactly what it evolved to do, in an environment it was never designed for. That's not a personal failure. That's a several million-year-old mismatch, and you just happen to be alive during the part where the bill comes due. So pull back for a second. Look at the whole arc. A dopamine reward built to keep fruit-eating primates alive, a treasure hunt for honey that got our ancestors stung on purpose. A luxury good so valuable it triggered slavery on an industrial scale and wars between empires. A parallel trade in tea, coffee, and chocolate that quietly hooked an entire continent on the side. A public health crisis that's really just an old reward circuit meeting a new engineered world. And now a chemically optimized snack, sitting in a wrapper, 3 feet away from you, engineered by people who understand your own brain circuitry better than you do. None of that changed. Not really. The craving is the same one that lit up in a monkey's brain a few million years ago. We just changed what we're willing to do to satisfy it. And, apparently, what we're willing to do to sell it to you. The bees got replaced by supply chains. The cliffs got replaced by checkout aisles. The steaks went from a few stings to millions of lives. So next time you reach for something sweet, know what you're actually reaching for, not just sugar. An unbroken chain from a fruit tree to a slave ship to a vending machine. Same craving, still running the show, just wearing a different disguise every few centuries. If this messed with your head a little, you're not alone. Hit subscribe because we've got a lot more everyday things that are secretly insane coming.